Thank you. We have a couple of presentations tonight. One, I believe, will be from Rochelle Cox,
So,
Personalized Learning Coordinator, grant writer.
not so much a presentation, just an introduction and
Oh.
sharing.
Okay, so
I'm first.
May as well, jump in, right?
All
When you first to get everyone's attention.
All right, so I'm your new personalized learning education coordinator, and I'm going to run Above the Notch Community School in Littleton High School. I've done this program for adult high school for the last 8 years in Conway, a senior United school district, with 375 students graduated from this program, and 75 high set students graduated from this program since we switched over, which was about a year and a half ago. With that, we do personalized learning. So we interview the students, or I interview the students, and they come to me and we decide and we build a plan of what they want to do. And then from there, we build the teachers and the schedule. So it's called a backward design for scheduling. But students also get credit for working. So we pair them with getting a job. We team them with New Hampshire Works. I go out into the community and meet business partners and go to managers meetings so that the students that we put out there in the workforce, there's accountability. They also receive a credit through adult high schools for their work. So 90 hours of working is 1 credit, 180 hours is 2 credits. Through the state standards, they require 45 hours. But live and learn. What I learned from students is that they would work 45 hours and then quit their job. So we put more accountability to that. Another project under personalized learning is called the Senior Project. Students can earn a half a credit up to 4 credits, but it's all personalized to what they want to do. So they can dual enroll. I have dual enrollment agreements with White Mountain Community College. I have dual enrollments with online classes, BLACs, and with businesses. So the kids and students that come are age 16 and older, can customize their learning and how they want to get that. So we do inventories to see how they learn best, whether it's hands-on, online, in front of a teacher, not in front of a teacher, and we try to customize it to exactly what they want to get involved in so that there's a transition between adult high school and the community college, or a transition from high school into the workforce. So that's what I hope to build here in this community, and I have a lot of support with the businesses areas. I'm from here, I'm from Whitefield, so have a lot of good rapport with the businesses, so I'm excited to do it.
Rachel, how long do you think it would take for you to feel it's up to full speed?
Well, it depends on the student and the staff, and everything that the adult high school does is competency-based education. So it's really put into the student's ballpark of how long it takes them to get from there. I had a 56-year-old woman come back to us last year. She had their high school diploma, but she couldn't work in the school districts down there without having so many college credits, and she needed help in Algebra 1. So they are allowed to come back and they pay to take that course, our Algebra 1 class, to pass the active placers so that they can take the courses to White Mountain Community College to get the college credit in order to get a job. So it's really up to the person. There's no time frame under competency. We meet them where they're at and move them forward so that they're successful. And I don't ever want to just graduate a student unless they're going to be successful when they walk out the door. I want them to be successful in our community, and I want them to be successful whether they go into a workforce environment or they go into college.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or?
Not
Welcome aboard.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next presentation is socio-emotional learning, Peggy Bromley and Lisa Harrell.
I'm Lisa Harold, school counselor at Lakeway. We do have a handout for everybody.
I'm Peggy Brownlee, the behavior coach, and we're just going to talk about social emotional learning at Lakeway.
So this is actually sort of the ultimate goal for when students leave us from 6th grade and transition up to the middle and high school. So kind of bearing in mind this matrix is where we hope all our students will attain a 3 or a 4. We do different activities throughout the year, assemblies, puppet shows, goal setting for kids that are struggling in any of these areas so they can learn how to set goals and teachers can work with them to actually attain this. So when they leave us, their social emotional functioning should be pretty good.
Do you want to be our slide person, Mr. G?
Sure.
So at Lakeway, we look at data that we collect from students. You know, we always look at kindergarten kids that are coming in. This year, 35% of the kids who came to us for kindergarten did not have preschool. And then we have teacher observations of students, and lots of times I will do observations in the classroom of, you know, behaviors that students are exhibiting. And then we look at Swiss data to really narrow in the behaviors that students are having. This is a slide that just shows behavior over the year. You know, like as you can see from October, November, December, we're pretty rough for this student, but then are decreasing now.
So we sort of have a 3-tiered approach to teaching social emotional learning. Kind of tier 1 being the whole group, tier 2 being small group, and tier 3 being the individual instruction, maybe with a speech pathologist or the choices program. Again, kind of looking at the data and what students need.
This is just a slide that's showing what social emotional learning is and then what it isn't. Can everybody read that? Okay. It's recognizing emotions in yourself and other people, managing your strong emotions, having empathy for people, controlling impulses, communicating clearly and assertively, maintaining cooperative relationships, making responsible decisions, solving problems effectively. And then what it is not is just a feel-good activity, educating parents, parenting for educators, parenting your kids for you, suggesting that you're not doing a good enough job as a parent, suggesting that today's generation of kids is somehow broken, psychotherapy, and it's not taught at the expense of core academic subjects.
So currently we're using the Second Step program and zone regulation. There are bits and pieces of other curriculums that we are using. The Second Step is more geared towards whole group. It's sort of teaching successful group interaction skills, whereas zones of regulation is really teaching kids to look inward and regulating their own emotions and their reactions to situations. So again, it kind of depends what the child would need. Choices, we use the zones of regulation. We do a morning check-in, going through the different colors, represent different feelings, thoughts, emotions, in hopes of teaching them how to identify when they're starting to go from a yellow to a red, and what they can use to bring themselves back down to a green, which is the optimal color to be in. So again, when we're looking at tier 1 intervention, it's whole group, so it's typically teachers, counselor, behavior support. We have some lessons that are taught in the library. Tier 2 would be mostly school counselor and behavior support specialist, and that would be our identified groups based on the data that we're seeing. And then tier 3 typically is individual, and those could be students with severe social deficits, students on the autism spectrum, attention deficit, anxiety, those sorts of things.
Uh-oh. I think if you request access, I can do it from my email, right? Or where did your email? It might be on your drive.
Again, my email.
Just go to rules with accounts, because we did it on her drive and we shared it.
Oh, okay.
And then just sign into whatever, and then you sign in.
Just a minute.
Yeah, I sure do. Because I'm using two bars of it. Where's the statement?
Next. You usually have to stop it.
Can you just do no shows?
Just stand there.
Is there an?
I'll stand there.
It probably doesn't.
That works. Just know what's on.
Yeah, from a guidance counselor.
It's not, it's like online and available.
This, sign up. Do you have the whole presentation on your computer?
Do you have one of your drive and stuff? Just slide in the presentation on.
Oh, there's just trying to keep.
Somebody else has signed it.
It's probably me, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
So how do you do that?
Upper right hand corner, you have to get out of there.
Exit?
Yeah, close it. Now we'll put that to and over on the right there side. If that's Peggy's. The right. The right. No, so it's for.
This is me.
Get your access to the presentation.
I know, but it was a video of our lessons. Why would you?
Could you sign it? Can you sign it?
She just wants what I was saying.
Who created it?
It's Lisa.
So maybe could you just like do an example of what you would do if you were trying to get them to, like, the whole
Really,
group?
Cameron, it was so good.
It looks like it was. You can see the little faces in the pictures.
They're
We
so
could actually
cute,
watch
though.
it on a
They're
laptop, I don't know.
Right.
If that would be
Check
okay.
your email and see if you have it.
Oh, God, you have no idea what you're doing with it. Well, yeah. Dale? Dale here.
It's saying, in- oh yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Technology.
I just say yes.
Yeah, as long as it's supplies.
All right, it should look good.
Go back supplies. Go back. Go back.
Refresh, just refresh it.
It's the, this, I've shared it, show you, refresh it, so I should. Just kind of-
Go back a slide.
Upper left. I put it in.
Upper left, a little circle.
Oh, right here.
So,
I wanted to put that in my
I think you just give them permission.
Oh, here we go.
Right.
No.
No, it's because it's in my account, so go back
It
to
shouldn't
my.
matter.
Oh.
Just share it with both
You
of
just
you.
share, yeah, you just share it.
Okay. I don't know.
All right, well,
You can just describe what they would see.
yeah.
So basically, there are picture cards, pretty much, it comes in a kit, and so it'll have a situation. So the one that we had was 2 students sitting at a table, one looked like they were actively writing, and the other one looks confused. And so the whole point of that lesson is, what does he look like? Does he look like he's doing his work? What do you think happened? And it was about being distracted, and so he was distracted, looking out the window, he missed the directions, and then he didn't know what to do. So then you kind of talk about, well, what could you do in this situation? And the kids come up, it's very much driven by the students. I mean, kind of maybe feed them a little bit. They're kind of getting off track, but they talk about why they were distracted. Do we get distracted? What distracts you? What helps you get back on task? That sort of thing.
The kids have partners during the school time, so they always have opportunities to like turn and talk to each other. So they they really like it.
Excited that it's Friday?
Yeah, because I'm the helper.
Okay, so I would like everybody to take a look at this picture. There's a little boy named Noah and a little girl named Sarah. Raise your hand if you think you might have an idea where they are, what setting this is. Oh boy, such good hand raisers. Sarah? You think they might be in school? If you agree that you think they might be in school, give me a thumbs up. What makes you think that they might be in school?
Because they're
Tanner?
doing math.
You think they're doing math in school? Are there any clues in the picture that helps you think that maybe they're in school?
Because I'm not having a pencil. I'm not using pencil.
Looks like they're using a pencil. What does this look like back here, honey?
A bookshelf.
Bookshelf. So you think they're probably at school? Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look at Sarah. What do you think she's doing? Leah?
She's writing.
She's writing. Any other ideas?
She's coloring a picture.
She might be coloring a picture.
Or writing.
Do you think she is on task in doing her work like maybe the teacher asked her to do? What makes you think she's doing what she's supposed to do? Tanner?
Because she's looking at the paper and doing the thing that the teacher said.
So her eyes are looking and they're focused on the paper and she's actually writing, so it looks like she's doing work. Let's take a look over here at Noah. What do you think is going on with Noah?
He don't know what to do and he's frustrated.
He doesn't know what to do and he looks frustrated. Yeah, do you think he looks frustrated because his pencil is up here on his face? Okay. Who agrees that he looks like he's confused and maybe a little frustrated? Just give me a thumbs up if you agree with that. Yeah, so what actually happened in this picture is when the teacher was giving directions, Noah was looking out the window and he wasn't focused on his teacher. So when it came time to start doing work, he missed all the directions. So now, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. How do you think Noah might be feeling? Leah? He might be feeling sad. Any other feelings? Frustrated, definitely.
Or he might get his work done.
He might not get his work done and he might fall behind. Yeah. What else? He might be thinking about something, maybe something that happened before school today. So he's distracted. Okay, good, excellent. Yes.
Maybe he's frustrated because he might miss all the directions because he was looking out the window and he actually was kind of feeling like a little frustrated and sad and mad.
Frustrated, sad, and mad. So I think you guys, you hit all the feelings, right? Does this maybe sometimes happen in real life?
Yeah.
We get distracted and we might be focusing our attention somewhere else and Mrs. Bray might be giving directions and you might miss it. So what could you do to solve this problem? Let's pretend you're Noah and you kind of let your attention wander off and you miss directions. What could you do to fix this problem?
Ask him.
has some ideas of what you could do.
Yes.
You could ask your teacher. Should you just blurt out, or should you raise your hand and wait to be called on? Yeah, and Mrs. Bray would come over and she would explain it to you. That's a great idea. What else could you do?
You tell your friend. Ask.
You could so he could maybe quietly ask, can you tell me what we're doing? I missed that. And we're all really good friends in here, right? So we would be helpful and we would tell each other what we need to do. Good, excellent.
Let's just see if the next video works. Darn. This was going to give you a true picture of our kindergartners.
Ready? We're going to share how we feel today. Who would like to go first?
Me.
Oh. Try again. Ready?
Me.
Do you think you should say me?
No.
I'm going to know that you want to go first just by you raising your hand. Ready? Hands down. Hands down. Who would like to share first?
Chicken.
Alex,
Oh.
how do you feel today? Today I feel...
Sad.
Why are you sad?
Because my eyes hurt me.
Your eyes are hurting today? How come?
I'm a little happy.
Oh, Jody, so say,
I'm
please don't touch my
a
paper.
little happy.
No. What's wrong with your eyes?
Sometimes
Oh, guys, I can't even hear Alex, and he's right here. Landon.
I wake up, I see boobies in my eyes.
Oh, and Mommy gave you medicine, and we'll make it better? Good. Austin, how do you feel today? Landon.
Rainbow happy.
Hang on a second. Landon, I'm going to wait for you to look at Austin. Austin, show them. Today I feel
Happy.
happy. Why are you happy?
Wait, I'm rainbow happy.
You're rainbow happy. What does that mean? Super duper happy?
No, super rainbow happy.
Super rainbow happy. Why are you super rainbow happy today? Landon, no thank you.
No.
You love your friends?
Stop.
Landon, please show me your personal space.
It's not funny.
All right, who would like to go next? Jadio. Today I feel happy. Why are you happy?
Because I like Mickey Mouse.
You watched Mickey Mouse this morning? You lucky duck. That would make me happy too.
No.
Listen.
Lucky Bob.
All right, who would like to go next? The people who have already gone should be ready to listen. Noah, how do you feel today? Jadio. Who are we watching? No, Noah's talking. Everybody's eyes should be on Noah. Noah, why are you happy today? You love chickens? Who would like to go next? We have 2 more friends to share. Shayna. Today I feel
Sad.
why?
Because
Dixie, no thanks. Come to the table.
I really love John, but he's at work.
Oh, John's at work, but you're at school.
Dixie.
So you'll see him later, right?
Yeah. When he gets home.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Is he your dad? No.
Brother.
He's my brother.
Okay, sit on your bottom. All right, Landon, we're waiting to hear from you. Today I feel...
Happy.
You're
Happy,
happy?
Dad.
How come you're happy?
It's happy. Because I'm on a boat.
You're on a boat.
And I'm wearing a hat.
And what?
And I'm wearing a hat.
Your picture is wearing a hat. How come you're happy at school today?
That's again, I'm the night.
Landon.
Because I love singing in the sea.
Okay, can I get your paper?
Singing in the sea.
Thank you. Okay.
So this is a small group instruction for second step, and we, myself, Mrs. Harold, and Corey, Nicole, Charlotte, we actually all had days that we were assigned. We took this group of kids every day. I would like to say that we saw some progress. But we always started, we kind of started with a zones check-in. You know, every day they had to tell us how, if they were happy, sad, or angry, and why. And so we would always start with, they would draw a picture of how they felt and share. And then we would go into a lesson. And then actually at the end of their time, they actually had a little bit of social time before they went back to the classroom.
In this particular group, we had every morning, first thing, 5 days a week. They're having a hard time coming in and settling down in the morning.
So they're all from different classrooms, they're brought together, or
Actually,
are they one?
This
It's
one-
all one class.
This one was one class.
Lovely.
But again, it depends on.
Yeah.
And a lot of the behaviors, like they're very young kids and some ESL students, and so it was a lot of, big range of different needs. Yeah.
The nice part about having the parrot in there as well is she could follow through the language throughout the day that they were learning. So it was helpful.
And it was helpful, like for behavior support calls, because we could always go back to the lesson that they had.
So is there a way to track from grade to grade? So you have this group of kindergartners. So is there a way to follow them?
I mean, ideally, yeah, that's the goal.
Over the next
Like
4 or 5
would-
years?
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal.
Yeah.
Well, the data that we have from Swiss follows them from year to year, so
Okay.
we can do comparative analysis by the student, by the grade, by the classroom, so we can really pare down and get whatever data points we want.
Okay.
Because as they move on, they likely won't be,
Right, that's
likely
what I'm
won't be
wondering.
placed together in the same room.
Right.
So we can track the individual data with them.
And that group of kinder, so Mrs. Harrell goes into them once a week, so they get a whole group lesson, and then this was individual, so they have like a double dose.
And they did remember and chime in, which was nice. We didn't start off with second step in the whole kindergarten just because it was developmentally in the group. We weren't really ready for it, so we started later. So this group kind of was like pre-taught the skills and then had it with the whole group. Tier 3 is, again, it's the most intensive level of intervention. These could be choices students or students with a lot of social deficits. They need a lot of attention individually, with the idea being eventually moving them to a smaller group. Again, looking at getting to that matrix at the end.
And then obviously we just, over time, I mean, just as we were just talking about, we want to be able to look at the progress that students are making and give teachers an understanding of students who come from trauma, and hopefully it will lead right into them coming into middle school and high school.
So speaking about that, what's in place at the middle school and then high school to carry on that support that you guys are starting at Lakewood?
Well, they actually started the Crusader competencies, so we based our model off of feeding into what they had already created. So our Leopard competencies are the same as their Crusader competencies. So our goal is to give them those prerequisites so that when they get to 10 and Greg, they have that base because they already have that up here.
And do you have the same type of kind of breakout into smaller groups or one-on-ones when necessary that they're showing at Lakewood?
So we have our student support team,
Mhm.
facilitates that. We've got the guidance counselors meeting with students in small groups.
Okay.
Jane Ludwig, our social worker. Our task times have been used as opportunities to pull those groups together. We're getting there. And we also just this year started using Swiss, so we can use kind of the same behavior management.
And the kids that are actively, like if you've got groups that are actively doing this now as the school year's coming to a close, do they start the school year in that and then determine whether or not they need it anymore, or they might have made progress and need
Yeah,
less?
we have like what we call our leadership team, the same as your team. We have our fall list that we started probably 3 weeks ago of kids that we know are going to need that to start the year. So we've already generated that list for the fall.
Okay.
And then there are some kids that we think they may not need it, so we're gonna let them see how they start. And we kind of we look at the data and see who's making progress over time, and we start transitioning students in need to their next classroom already.
So that transition's done from 6th to 7th as well?
Well, it's 6th to 7th, yep, we're already doing that. I think they've made 2 visits, some students have made 3. And we will do step-up day again at the end of the year at Lakeway, where our entire population goes to their next year teacher. And that has alleviated a ton of stress for students. A lot fewer parents are going in the building that first day, because they will say, I know where I'm going, I know how to get there. I don't want mom or dad going with me anymore, because they can, I mean, we still have parents, pretty packed house, but for the most part, we try to start those transitions as early as possible to alleviate that anxiety.
And during the end of the year PD days, we do get our 6th grade teachers and 7th grade teachers together to have conversations about the needs of the kids coming up.
Thank you.
You can exit though this program, so like, for example, the kindergarten group that we had, they completed the program. They, likely some of them will, a couple of them are actually being retained, so they would get it again. And obviously that's not going to hurt them either. But we, next year, would like to be in every grade level. This year we did 1st, 2nd, kindergarten.
We've been purchasing over the last couple of years the whole curriculum. And basically it's 22 to 25 lessons per grade level. So you don't have to do it every week. You can spread it out. And you can do it in 20, 25 minutes.
Do you have an idea how much classroom time is directly affected by social and emotional issues?
A lot.
Too much.
During any given classroom, block or hour, a percentage that you think might be affected by social and emotional issues?
This might not be the best time of year to ask.
I would say on the average day, it's probably anywhere from 15 to 25%. The lower grades, it probably starts out the year more. And in the upper grades, this time of year, it's more.
And like, I mean, I feel like Christmas time is always there's always a huge, so it's
the Friday before any vacation is difficult. Halloween,
Monday after
get it.
vacation.
Halloween.
Valentine's Day, get it.
Today.
The day after.
Today, Mondays in May.
So could you give like a real quick overview of a day in the life of Lakeway for both of you? What it would look like?
Don't use
I talked about using a GoPro
Other than
earlier.
today.
Well, I start off in choices, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and do a morning group with them, and then Mr. Stanley does a morning group. And then from there, I typically do individual counseling with choices kids, and then I have regular scheduled kids, and then I have email, please check in with this kid, messages from Ms. Bromley, and then it kind of, there's some wild cards throughout the day.
There's the crisis call that we get almost on a daily basis where there's DCYF calls or...
There's that, and then in an office-based interview a child, so it's really, it's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, like, we are probably the support network for a lot of students at Lakeway, between the two of us. I mean, and admin.
Is there a lot of interaction with the families at this point between you two?
Yeah. Whether they want to or not.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
It's
All
good.
you do.
I wish they would get it.
Sarah, those videos didn't work.
They're so cute.
Did both of you guys go to the conference last week? Yeah, what did you think about it?
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know what we would have to do to get her here, but she was amazing.
Amazing. It's like you don't even feel like you're sitting, you're just so.
Who was this?
The conference they went to
Cassie,
last week.
And neither one of us are used to sitting.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, she does a really, like, if teachers could hear her, I feel like there would be a different level of understanding.
Okay.
A lot of brain-based information as well, so it ties into that physiological reaction, which we sometimes forget about trauma.
We've been trying to get her here since March.
I was just gonna say, why aren't we in?
Yeah, Kelly and I and Al saw her in March, and she was amazing, and she's a busy lady.
I've been in email contact with her. I was trying to get her to come in June for some of her PD days. She was booked out August, she was booked out, so I tried October for the in-service day, and she was booked, but she thought maybe she has 2 associates that maybe could come for that, and they're booked, so. But she's working with Bethlehem School through a grant, so the principal there is my sister, and I've had a lot of contact with them about
just resources in general around trauma that we're starting to talk about, just, how to build that district line, so. I'm not done trying yet. Get her here.
We've reached out to some of our neighboring SAUs, we're working with 36 with our competency-based learning. And so I think down the road, there'll be some opportunities perhaps to work with them, as well as 35 and maybe some other SAUs as well on SEL as well.
This isn't unique to you.
No.
And it's not going away anytime soon.
I know exactly what you're saying when there's high lows and peaks and valleys with their behavior. I've been there in the school, and I was sitting here listening to you, and this is a start on how to kind of grasp it somewhat. But I was thinking, what could they do so when those things come about, how can you settle them down? It's so much of what they do comes from outside.
That's the nice part of your choices check-in, is they all, they'll check in where they're at, what's going on, what feedback they're able to take from their peers, and they'll say that, like, I just need a little extra space.
Yeah.
So, cute, one little boy said, you need some extra tender love and care today, and he's like, I do. And I was like, you ready for it? And he was like, yeah. So it's kind of that community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see the video on channel 2.
It's very cute. They are very cute. They are.
Just sign out.
They were on.
I guess I can put it for you. Share that
What are they?
with the presentations.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't rest up.
You go if you want.
Do you want me, I neglected to tell you that I'm also a grant writer. So
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the good stuff. We did forget about that.
Yeah, so,
I'm pretty sure we knew that.
so under adult high school, we'll start out with $10,000. I started in 2010 at Kennett with 20,000. I now have 45,000 for adult high school, and then we write a transition grant for 5,000. So there's a total of 50,000 for that program. And then for here, I have a lot of friends in the state level. So my friends are good. JAG, I'm bringing JAG into this high school in the fall. That comes with a $240,000 amount of money with it, and that will run that program for 3 years on that grant alone. We have up to 45 to 50 students in that program for the high school level. That has gone to a completely competency-based education program. I've had a lot of say in that. I had JAG at Kennett, and we lost the grant last year. They reorganized into the state level with Chris Sununu and the commissioner, and through DHHS money, that money is coming available. And I was asked if I was moving school districts, if I wanted to take that with me. So I asked, but they said yes. So that will come with us and start in the fall here. So I'm also going to go after a Nellie Mae grant for this school district that will carry a hefty amount of money with it to do some personalized learning and partner with businesses and the CTE Center here to partner and make some bridges between the business in this community and the surrounding communities and the CTE centers, which is Littleton High School and probably White Mountain Regional High School. When we did the adult high school grant startup, we did a lot of research of grafting and co-ops. There's 3,500 adults between the ages of 16 and 24 that do not have a high school diploma in these two counties. So there's a lot of potential here to really move, and there's a lot of money that we will be able to access down the road for the two if we build some good partnerships and bridges between the career tech centers and the businesses. So that's also a part of my job as well here. So I also hope to do all of that. So, okay?
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So next next item is any public input. We have we need to approve the minutes of May 7th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We had a school board town work session on May 14th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Kim, I didn't see any.
see it.
I didn't see any either. All in favor? Aye. 3 ayes and
Well, I wasn't there.
you can abstain. Okay. Moving right along, the manifests are in front of Millie and Jim. You need to look at them.
I have a few other items that aren't on your agenda, if I may.
Yes, you may, Mr. Mandel.
Over the last couple of meetings, we've talked about chimney projects and unit ventilators. The board authorized us to go ahead and move ahead with those projects. It's rather difficult looking page in front of you is what I'm proposing as far as moving budget monies around to cover the $33,000 worth of chimney renovations and $70,000 worth of unit ventilators. The first column called current budget balance is right off the reports before the century is made. I did slip in a couple of the electric accounts and propane because they were already overspent, so I think I might just well fund those too. Because the majority of the monies you can see is coming from custodial salaries, from fuel oil at both the elementary and the senior high school. Everything else is significantly less, but I needed a lot of them to get there. This obviously exceeds the $7,500 limit. So I appreciate your comments and perhaps even approval.
It's difficult to give approval or comment if you see it for the first time. Take a minute.
The first column shows where we are now. The last column shows where it will be after the entry. You can see that the totals of both columns are still the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're not looking for any new monies.
Do you anticipate any surprises in any of these that?
No, I've hedged a couple of them. The other sheet, which is even grosser, is just a quick function report. As of 4:30 today, I didn't try to back off to last month end or project what's going to happen for the balance of this month. That's just NEDAX as of today. So that last column still shows that in total we still have a sizable amount of funding available.
I think the main idea is to get the stuff ordered.
Yeah.
Get the unit ventilators installed before school starts and certainly get the boiler exhaust working better over the high school. Otherwise, we could wait that we probably should get that in motion. And we want to make sure we're following the guidelines and policies of the board. And it requires a budget move for us to legally order these items at this point, to write the PO and legally order that.
Okay.
I don't see any line items that look like they could be surprises or not.
Sure. Might have $500 or $1,000 in one place or the other. We have a number of other accounts, and obviously we still have a little bit of cushion left.
Okay with it.
So, you want a motion to, for this,
To approve the budget, please.
budget transfers,
Reallocation of
reallocation of
unencumbered
funds, of encumbered funds?
Unencumbered.
Unencumbered funds, okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the business manager's recommendation for the reallocation of unencumbered funds as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Your unit ventilators are on the way, Krista. I know that's exciting.
You have no idea.
Thank you.
Anything else underneath your comments? No? That's next on the agenda,
Leave it
so,
on there, yeah.
Oh, you got that as
Well,
a-
yes,
it's
summer
un-
school.
unfinished.
well, we can do the food service, but we're gonna move some of that to non-public. Do you have any comments on it?
I believe Steve was going to.
Yeah, just that we met with the three bidders, received their bids. We've had a committee that's looked at all three proposals. Millie was on that committee, Tom and I, and Jenny. Jenny who's worked a lot with our food service auditing and some of our policy, some of the building principals, Jen and Crystal. So we've tried to look at those three proposals carefully. We've also reached out to the clients of the various vendors, you know, so taking all that into account, and we'll, because we're getting into some contractual issues with them, we'll have to talk later a little bit more about some of the details there, but I think we're prepared at least to visit with the board a little bit further about going forward, what provider we would be our preferred provider at this point. And I appreciate the help of all those who were involved.
The next item on the agenda is summer school board meetings. For the month of July, I'm going to change the 2nd and the 16th to July 23rd. So we'll have one meeting in July, and if we need to sign any vouchers or expense accounts, Tom will notify us. Okay?
That's what we do.
All right. Anything else? Nothing under new business. Special ed report, Kelly.
So, this month I took the liberty of breaking out the number of identified students by disability, just to give you an idea of what the population of students are that we're dealing with. I don't know if you have any questions about that in particular. And then the only other thing I had, summer school nomination should be coming to you tonight. And then I just have the dates of summer school and the times.
Thank you. Daisy Bronson, Jennifer.
Our enrollment's maintained itself, 341 since last month. Last Thursday, we recognized our New England League of Middle School Scholar Leaders in Manchester, Tyler Thompson and Bree LeMay. White Mountain Motor Sports Park Speed Reader Program, we'll probably talk about this too. But one of our middle schoolers has been recognized as a speed reader and has been going around to schools promoting reading.
With his race car.
With his race truck.
Yeah.
And Al will talk to this, but our internship breakfast, recognizing internships of the year. Two of our high school students, Sheridan Garno and Emily Dane, stood and shared their experience in their internship program this past school year at that breakfast. May 6th was our spring concert. Everybody did a great job. Mrs. Moyes continues to build that strong band and choral program. We had our prom, May 12th. Berry Transportation donated the 2 buses to transport the kids from the chem-free party, which was at Maplewood, where they held the prom, back to school. So thank you to Berry Transportation. We had our academic award ceremony, May 15th. We recognized a lot of students, took a lot of prep work, invitations, and setup. So we appreciate the help of our students, National Honor Society, and custodial staff. And Mrs. Haney, who just puts that little bit of flair in everything she does. May 17th, we did the Alice School Safety Training. We had about 50 people come and attend. Police representatives, I think there were 3. Fire department was there with 2. Many families and other community members. So it was well received, I think. Looking forward to continuing that work with our community. Greg and Matt Champagne did a great job facilitating those conversations. Senior class trip, they're back from Montreal. It was a good trip.
All's good?
All's well.
All's well.
I've included some of the end of the year events in my report at the end, but on June 8th, Crystal and I have worked together to come up with an opportunity for our seniors to dress in their caps and gowns and go down to Lakeway as part of their rehearsal that day. And Berry Transportation has donated again their bus to bring our seniors down and back for the very last school bus ride.
That's cool.
It's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I don't know if we're going to sing on the bus.
They should have lunch at Lakeway last time.
They don't fit anymore.
I know, they don't fit those little tables.
Rochelle was here. She spoke to the Above the Notch Community School. We've begun sharing brochures with our families. And we'll begin scheduling meetings May 30th with the families so that they know what this opportunity is for the students who might qualify for this program. Sent out our task surveys. We're nearing the end of the year, so we've sent our task surveys to our students and teachers, and we'll send an email link to our families and a reminder in the phone call Sunday evening asking them to participate in the surveys. Our teachers have had a lot of professional development in the last month between Universal Design for Learning. We vetted that in our district-wide staff meeting. Our vertical teams continue to work on their competencies with Melanie. And we have our last Karen Hess Depth of Knowledge learning opportunity at the high school, middle school. We pull some elementary school teachers up as well. They'll be focusing on rubrics and assessment. And our leadership teams started and will continue the conversation about grading and reporting and embedding more competency approaches. The social emotional learning team went to the trauma sensitive schools. We're looking forward to continuing our work there. We had in the last month 2 community collaboratives. Thursday evenings, the first on learning, culture, and student learning, and 8 families were represented at that meeting. We talked a lot about approaches to instruction and student learning at that meeting. May 10th, we had looking at learning supports for students. We had 2 families come that evening. I'm hoping to structure those at the beginning of the year so they're predictable and the topics are engaging for families. Grade school cleanup was May 5th. With thanks to Lowe's Heroes and all the many volunteers that helped clean up the school. Memorial Day, next Monday, we will participate in the Memorial Day procession, our band and our wreath layers. Those wreath layers are usually represented district-wide. I try to recruit that way. Tomorrow's our yearbook dedication at about 12:35. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Jim, on the upcoming events
Yes.
for athletic awards on 6/11, do you have a time for that? It's the only one that doesn't have a time.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Thank you.
Jen, what time is the yearbook dedication?
12:35. Yep.
Nice.
Class schedule.
Yeah, it's during that overlap task time. The dedication takes maybe 15 minutes. So in order to get all the students there, we're just using that overlap time.
So what time did you say the athletic awards were?
6.
I'm not athletic. Yeah, like 6 o'clock?
Yep.
What, yeah?
It's on 6/11.
All right, Mr. Smith?
6 p.m.
So we still have a health science opening and haven't had an enormous amount of applicants, so we're continuing to explore innovative ways to make the fund replacement. Again, perhaps working with the hospital and other agencies to see if we could even share personnel. If we want someone with that nursing background and connection to hospitals, certainly does make a difference. Enrollment, of course, stays pretty consistent this time of year. CTC, industry, and post-secondary connections. We continue to develop agreements with White Mountain Community College. We just created a new articulation agreement that has gone back to the college for signatures, but the students in teacher education could earn credits in 2 courses. We do have a donation, which I will have to ask you to accept. They're self-contained breathing apparatus from the Littleton Fire Department. They're the masks and the tanks and the equipment. Approximately 12 units and 23 masks will be donated to us to use just for training purposes. So they're going to certainly will be certified for our students and safe for our students to use for training, but not in a live fire situation. So I would ask for your acceptance for those donations from the fire department. Jen mentioned the North Country Workplace Education Program, which is really a partnership between us here in Littleton, Lisbon, and Profile Schools.
Did we get invited to that this year? I don't remember getting.
We should have. I will check with.
Connie sent out invites early.
Did you go?
Okay, I'll double check.
I used to go. I look forward to that one.
And this year we had over 50 student interns from the schools, community high schools, that we celebrated with their businesses. This year we held the breakfast at the Opera House, which is really nice to use that facility. And this week, 17 students from the computer technologies class will be attending a fiber optics splicing workshop at White Mountain Community College. Jim mentioned the sessions with Karen Hess. The 4th session is tomorrow. Last year, if you remember, we were monitored by the DOE, something that they do periodically, the CTC centers. We were actually the first school to track. We, in conjunction with the DOE directors, developed a new method to monitor. It's more inclusive. It involves teachers going out into the field. We were the first school to do it. This year, I went out to Conway, Mount Washington Valley, CTC, as well as 3 teachers. Connie Ward went, Dan Goldine went, and Dan O'Hara spent the day at Mount Washington and at the high school in Conway. And you always walk away learning more than you are trying to assess, which was the point of it all. So we found that very worthwhile. And if you're familiar with some of our Project Lead the Way offerings over the years and Technology education, you know, there's somewhat of a lull this year because we had teachers leave who were trained in Project Lead the Way. And throughout my conversation with Mr. Reed, who is teaching, of course, TV production now and graphics and some other electives, he was always interested in becoming certified in some areas. Certainly the first year wasn't the best time, but he's enrolled in actually 2 courses this summer, and we'll be paying for that through some Perkins funding. So he'll be trained in Project Lead the Way. You're not allowed to, not permitted to teach a Project Lead the Way curriculum. You certainly wouldn't have access to the curriculum and software unless you've been trained and you're a member of Project Lead the Way. That's how they kind of hold that high standard. So we're making up for lost time here a little bit, so that's pretty exciting. Just some program updates. Very pleased to announce that 25 students did take the LNA in written and practical exams on May 11th. They were pretty stressed out last week, but they all passed, and that represents all of our schools in the area, certainly those students as well as others. The fire science students traveled to Concord, and you do training in live simulations there, very controlled, of course, with fire personnel. And they have a couple weekends where they devote to high school students. So we were paired with a larger group from Dover, and pretty exciting to listen to the kind of simulations that they're involved in with real fires. And so they were very successful, and they'll be taking their exams in about a couple weeks. So hopefully they pass and they become fire science line certified. There's only 2 this year. This year, as you probably know, our faculty vote on a CTE Student of the Year. It doesn't have to be from Littleton, it could be from any school. But this year is Lucas Gray, who will be honored at the scholarship breakfast this Wednesday up at the regional, where all North Country students are celebrated their success.
Our top 2 students will be there as well.
That's great.
So it's nice to have them all. Same arena. Talking about summer camps, closely approaching us. Teacher education and health science. We are getting some preliminary numbers from other district schools. Right now they look pretty promising, so I'm happy to say that. And then we have a couple invites. We'll be hosting our completer ceremony. These are for students who completed 2 years of the program. May 29th in the cafeteria, the high school. And the Little Leopard celebrations, kind of their stepping up, if you will, to kindergarten. Will be on June 6th, 6 to 7. And I'll pass out these invitations later on.
Is that the cafeteria again, like normal?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Any questions for Al?
I do need your approval on
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We're here.
Do we have a place to store all that?
Yeah, we've been using the academy. We voted space over there for fire science. Oddly enough, the chief allows us to use that space.
So there.
Is that downstairs?
Downstairs.
That's far enough for that.
As long as locked up, yes.
So I'd like to hear a motion to accept the chief's donations to the fire
Make a
science.
motion to accept the donation from the fire department with gratitude, donated to the CTC for training purposes only.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You're welcome. Operations and technology, Mr. Pryor.
Good evening. Facilities Committee scheduled to meet a week from this Friday on June 1st. Invite went out from Patty on Friday.
Yep.
But I'm sorry, Patty, I meant to ask you before, do they have the summer custodian names tonight? Okay, so you guys will see who has applied to work with us for the summer. I hear a lot of positive feedback from the air conditioning units at Lakeway in those classrooms. So hopefully it's much more comfortable for the kids to learn and the teachers to teach. Don't need to talk about unit ventilators. We already made that approval earlier. The academy is going to be doing the Homeland Security Assessment, which would then fulfill all of our buildings in the district on June 7th. The request for proposal for the windows has gone out. I put an update on my side. You probably had the report from Friday, but they got mailed out Friday afternoon to 6 local vendors, as well as posted on our website. And today I had 3 vendors, which were not people that we had sent to, asked for permission to see the document. So hopefully we'll get plenty of interest, and again, that would be part of the infrastructure fund that Steve had written a grant for. I can skip over the power venter, thank you. Al and I have been working with local vendor. I know we kind of talked about this as the winter went on, and whether or not we could find a local vendor that would do our preventative maintenance on our HVAC units. We have found a local vendor, considerably less expensive than what we currently pay for the same services. And Tom and I are scheduled to meet tomorrow at 9:30 with the vendor to finalize the contract details. I updated the 5-year plan in the document with the things that we just approved plus things that we've already done. Nothing else from the operations side. From technology, we will be moving forward with the online registration forms with the 18-19 school year. So that will allow parents, and I'll work with Jen and Crystal about doing some registration nights for parents to come in, for those that don't have a computer or those that want us to help walk them through it. But it's simplified. If you have more than one student, you only have to fill out forms one time electronically, and it automatically copies over to your other students for demographics and emergency contacts. And I'm pretty certain a lot of families would appreciate. That's probably the #1 complaint that we get from parents is the opening day packets and how long it takes for them to fill out paperwork. The new server, I lied, it arrived at the end of last week, so not this week, like it says in the report. Matt's already started on getting it set up and working with the backups of the other servers. And then lastly, not that the website has become back shelf, but we're trying to finalize the layout with NotchNet. We're probably looking at summer against July for the final rollout. We don't want to get it wrong, and I know that there's been some questions, but we're working with the building principals. He's waiting on me at this point to get him some of the documents to upload, but it's been a process, but I think we're going to get it right. Just taking a little longer than expected. That's it.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about the registration forms and kind of consolidating so you're not filling out 3? How does that tie into field trips or events that go on the year where you're having to provide insurance information again for, where it seems like we're filling out permission slips that ask for point of contact again and the insurance information? Is any of that, is that something you're required to get every time you do a field trip, or is that data that you could pull from the registration so that you're not having to have parents refill out insurance information that's often the same numbers they did in September? And
we probably could do that. One thing that does happen quite a lot at Lakeway is address changes. And so by sending that out another time, sometimes that's how we get the updated address. It is cumbersome at times. So there's probably a way we can update the field trip form, right, to say if anything has changed. because I know that there are ways we can pull that information from Power School by grade level. So that's definitely, my office staff has been absolutely pounding Dale to try to get this, because it's crazy at Lakeway with all the chasing down those packets every year. So I know, I'm confident that Tara probably had the field trip form on her list as well. So hopefully we can consolidate some of that too.
So our agreement, Greg, with the company is that they'll create 6 new forms per calendar, per school year for us. So initially, we're going to obviously go after the demographics form, the ones that have the most information, and then we can add more forms each year at no additional cost, other than the registration cost per student.
And can you modify those forms once they're corrected by changing years on them, or, you know?
Yeah, so the actual forms will change based on what's in Power School. It's a plugin that would go into Power School, so when we roll over to the 18, 19, all the dates would change. And parents would, as long as they have an email on file, would get an email notification. Hey, here's your demographics, please read it, and then they simply open it. It's already pre-populated. They click, they accept it, and it comes back to us, and it's done. That's great.
They could change it if they had to.
They can make changes, right, but they have to proofread, and they have to acknowledge it.
Okay.
If it is okay before sending it back.
Good. Thank you. Any further questions for Dale? Okay, Crystal.
You can see on there my enrollment has, the last couple of months have changed. We actually have 2 enrolling tomorrow, so that continues to fluctuate, even given the late 11th hour here. I'll skip right down. I think I'm going into non-public to talk about the personnel piece that's listed there. But the first thing is what we recommended, you recommended last time, is the 6th grade overnight hike. Request for permission to attend again this year. They did do the different fundraiser this year, which was Donors Choose, and they had all of their money raised in 2 days. So you may have wanted to donate, and once you get to that amount, they don't accept any more donations. So there was only like 11 or 12, 13, somewhere in there, people that donated, and they paid for the entire amount because Google matched it, and another company were matching donations for the first 2 days. So they, in 2 days, they had enough to go and cover the whole cost.
How much was raised?
$1,600, just under $1,600.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So they actually got a, I think it was a $150 gift card that they can pay it forward to another Donors Choose, because it went about $150 over with the total donation. So they're actually trying to figure out if they can keep it for them for next year, or if they're going to encourage another grade level to use it so they can pay it forward to somebody local. Jen mentioned we had Tyler Thompson come. There's a picture linked in there. The kids absolutely adored him. He drove his race truck out onto the playground, which was like the biggest deal ever. He did a really nice job speaking. His parents were both there, and his grandfather were there, so it was definitely a family event. It was very nice. If the students do their reading log and submit it to the office, I believe it's 10 books, they get a ticket to see Tyler in one of his races, and when they go, they can sign his book. Very big thing. The spring concert happened last week. It was awesome. The kids did a fantastic job. I don't think we could have stuck one more person in that gym. But both the band and the chorus were phenomenal. Jay continues to do a really nice job with them. And he had a higher level of participation with both groups this year, so he was able to do a few more pieces, which he was really excited about. So it was awesome. Again, in there, you'll see the YMC track meet results. We had 49 athletes from Lakeway participate this year, which is really good. And they did pretty well, brought home some hardware, and they were pretty excited to share that. Lakeway participated in National Bike to School Day on May 9th. The only walking route, our walking Wednesday route that we biked from was Remick Park. And John Corrigan from the DOT, he's been integral in the Safe Routes to School projects. He rode with them. Dave Harkus from Littleton Bike and Fitness, and Nurse Penny and Mr. Jackson also rode with them. Chief Smith met them there and kind of just reviewed the rules of the road and checked helmets, because we hadn't had the bike rodeo yet. But that was really fun. Kindergarten registration was Thursday and Friday of last week. We registered 35 students and still have some phone calls of people that either missed it in the paper or couldn't come those days, so some lingering. The bike rodeo was yesterday. We did have to do this inside. If we had pushed it off by an hour, we probably could have been outside, but I don't have the final count, but there was a high level of participation despite the fact that they were waiting in the hallway. A lot of volunteer support there, and again, Dave Harkless was a huge piece of this. Carla Peacock sort of coordinates the entire thing, so thank you to her too. And Connie Ward, thank her for sending us some volunteers. And then our 5th graders are heading on the first field trip of the year. At the bottom, you can see that I listed the whole field trip extravaganza that is Lakeway in May and June. But the 5th graders are starting it off with their trip to the Freedom Trail. And then you're all cordially invited to Lakeway's annual Memorial Day celebration this Friday at 1, and wear your red, white, and blue and join us in the, hopefully outside. Tight and Jim, but I do need you to give up your blessing should you choose for the overnight hike.
Yeah, do their motion. For the overnight hike, which is in September, right?
For the 6th grade, right?
Yeah?
For the 6th
Yeah,
grade.
Just the 6th grade, yeah.
Make a motion to approve the 6th grade taking the overnight hike next year in September.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
What are you going to do with that money?
Find something.
That's right.
So committee reports, personnel?
No.
No?
No, we need to set a meeting.
Okay.
We do.
Facilities is June 1st at 7:30. And we have a policy meeting on May 29th at 9 or something like that. Other than that, we don't have anything at the moment. Superintendent's report.
Okay, just, I don't want to be too redundant, but there'll be a couple things, I guess, that follow up. Alice training, as Jen reported, was excellent. Again, Greg and Matt, thank you for their work. We had good attendance from the public. I think that their opportunity to see what we're doing, participate. It was a participation-based activity. Following, I think, frankly, good universal design for learning form, because it was activity-based. There were several different ways to learn about Alice in that particular event. So again, great job, great community outreach. And I think the parents who were there, again, my take was they were very appreciative that we're working on this, that we're reaching out to them, and we want to answer questions that they have, but most of all, that we're putting some thought into school safety and some energy into school safety. And I don't think, we don't need to state the obvious here that that's on everybody's mind right now. And again, with that in mind, our condolences to the families and the school and the greater communities to the latest tragedy, unfortunately, is related to the school shooting. We did have the school town meeting, and we spent a little time looking at our budgets, current year budgets. So of course we're in little different phases here with the town's current year budget being a few months along and ours being well along, but because of the way the fiscal years work. But that was a productive time we spent with them. We talked about possible warrant articles that will be coming forward. And then we did talk about snow removal. Imagine that. And again, I think just to find ways for us to work together. And again, the town's been very supportive of us in the past, and certainly even in this last year, although they weren't out plowing all the lots necessarily, they did help us with snow removal and getting our sidewalks ready. And so I do want to acknowledge their help and support in that. And I think going forward we can continue to find ways to work and make things safe and accessible for our students and staff, and make good use of resources. Rochelle, when she was here, we talked a little bit about grants. We did apply for a Title IV grant, which would have helped support some of the work we're doing with Above the Notch community school. We were not successful with that grant. There was about $5 million worth of requests for $1 million of funding. But the good news is there's going to be more in that particular program next year, and we'll be back, bigger and better than ever. And well, maybe not bigger, but certainly better, we hope. And we'll continue to work on grants, as she's indicated already, to support not just that project, but the other things we're doing as well. Trauma-centered schools activity we attended last week. I did get to hear watch the presentation from Cassie Yackley, and very, very knowledgeable individual with an amazing depth of knowledge, amazing research and practice base to her presentations. And yes, one way or another, we'll find some ways to work with her or some other individuals in that area. That again, what we try to do with our 3 areas of emphasis is to try to put some depth into them, to try to focus, to utilize a relatively small number of voices and consultants, and to really focus on what we're doing. And so we're still looking for that particular model that we want to use for SEL, but certainly the work of her and her group is something we'll be looking at very carefully. My big takeaway from that was that despite, no matter how difficult a child or an adult, but we work with children, no matter how difficult a position that they're in, with the right supports and the right people and the right amount of expertise there, that they can recover. Human bodies and mind is an amazingly resilient structure, and so yeah, people can recover. They don't have to be. We won't give up, and we're certainly not in the business of giving up on anybody. I think the other aspect of this the whole SEL, mental health, trauma piece, and we talked about this administratively, is that we need to make sure we don't forget the adults. Our teachers, our paras, in particular, some of our support people, they're right there every day, working with our kids and families and working through some very difficult situations. Oftentimes teachers, because of the close relationships they'll often develop with students, or nurses, another group that does a lot of work with the social workers, they get a lot of bad news, unfortunately, from those the people they care a lot about. And they themselves may be encountering some bad news in their own personal lives as well. And so I think that's important for us to remember that yes, we're here to support the growth and the emotionally support our kids, but we also have adults that we need to keep in mind and make sure we support them as well. I'm going to borrow the little blue here back from Ann. I brought you something. This is from the Champions of Children Awards Assembly. This is done every year by the Superintendent's Association. It was because of this event. I unfortunately had a conflict on that day that we did the internship breakfast, and I was committed to go into this, so I did want to. I know Al spoke about that a little bit, and I do want to again thank, from the bottom of my heart, people, businesses, and individuals in this town that so generously support our kids and our programs in that regard. But I was in Concord on that day, and each region nominates an individual, champion of children, and sometimes these are school board members, sometimes these are school employees of various kinds, and there's a little bio on each one of the individuals in here. But these are, this is, I know Carl Ladd has said this is his favorite event of the year. I believe him. I'm watching him and the joy that he takes in bringing outstanding people from the communities and giving them a chance to shine a little bit. Not that any of these people are seeking out recognition, but giving people a chance to be recognized for the great work that they do in supporting public education of kids.
Steve, let me interrupt, a former Littleton board member, Rodney, did receive that award.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. And he was the one honored. Yep. Yeah, so there's certainly, certainly many people across the state that would qualify for that, and it's a nice event. Driver's education, we have shared some information with you going forward with that. An agreement that we'll look at in the future regarding how that looks going ahead. But again, we've had now we're a year into the program, and we've had many students complete. We have a good group of students in this current cohort with Mike Doucette, and it's been a successful program. And I think that the driver's ed program has done what we hope all of our programs will do, and that's to provide quality instruction and quality results, and at the end of the day, help kids make that transition into driving as safely as possible. So we're looking forward to going forward with that, and again, another year with that hopefully, and certainly again the support of Littleton Chevrolet with that particular program is much appreciated. Lakeway Architects report. We did speak with Kyle Barker today, and he's willing to come back on June 4th and do a presentation, and we'll probably have some more discussions going forward what that might look like. But we think it's important at this point for this stage, this phase, and this phase of it is looking at the current structure and really the state of the current structure. I think it's important that he comes back and gives us his final report, at least at this point, on where that building is and the full range of deficiencies that the building has, and a possible cost, what it would look like to fix it, is one option. And so I think we'll have a little more discussions about that, how that might look, how we might be able to engage the public, hopefully in that particular presentation that evening. But that's something we're looking forward to. State of New Hampshire, they're still asking us to do building aid requests, so that's good. Even though there's no aid there, it's not. But you never say never. We're in the pool. We entered last year, so our entry that has much of the information as I can provide at the time is there. It's received. Update to that is due July 1st. Amy Clark has informed me what we've submitted at this point is sufficient for that. But then the next update will be due September 1st. We're going to have a little work to do before that one to get that application a little bit more complete. And I think some of the things that hopefully will be happening in the weeks ahead will help us move forward with that. So I tried to keep it kind of short tonight, but I don't know if I succeeded much. We've had a lot of great presentations tonight, though, and I appreciate everybody's presentations, and to those who have left as well. Thank you for being here.
You just want to mention that on June 4th, that is our next school board meeting, and it will be held at Lakeway in the gym. I think.
Jim or the calf? You
We'll
tell
fill
me.
out a building request form.
Yeah.
And we'll get that in.
One thing that I know they kind of said real quick, but for the board members, Lakeway stepping up, the Lakeway grade 6 stepping up is well. I know it was on there, but I know we were announcing dates.
I think the 6th graders at some point will be here to hand deliver it.
Great.
Well,
Spoiler alert.
we'll probably be down there, so they won't have to go far, right? Huh?
That's true.
Okay. So, I need a motion to go into non-public.
This is
Might just disappear on the also. All right, I make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for number 2, the hiring of any person other than hiring of any person as a public employee, and number 3, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board.
Take it with us.
Okay, so taking with us.
Taking with us the superintendent
And the administrative staff.
and the administrative staff.
Ms. Reynolds,
Tom and Patty?
Yes, and including Tom and Pat.
do I hear a second? Roll call vote.
Kim Lindsay.
Greg Cook.
Really Nelson.
Unanimous?
Daniel Burke.